So now we're going to take a moment to learn the related skills in software that you will want to know in order to be successful with GIS. We're going to really quickly just breeze through some additional software that you should have on your computer and cover a few related skills that you'll want to have and a few pointers of where to go learn them if you don't have them already. So first off, the better you are with computers in general, the faster you're going to be with GIS and you'll have less frustration. It's a fact. You need to be comfortable with computers in order to be good with GIS. So first, the biggest barrier I see to new students with GIS isn't related to GIS at all. It's related to their understanding of computers. The more work you can do to understand computers and how they work, the better you'll be with GIS. I don't think learning GIS is out of reach for people who struggle working with computers or with Windows in particular, but know that you have some additional learning to do that won't be covered in this course. If you're a Mac or Linux user coming to Windows to use ArcGIS, take the time to get to know Windows, how to launch any program, not just the ones pinned to the taskbar, how to find files and hidden files, where your data is stored by default, how to change your settings, and how to add and remove programs. It'll save you a lot of time in the long run if you just take a little bit of time up front to understand the computer you're working on. That applies to everyone else here too. There's no shortage of resources out there for this. There are professional lynda.com courses, there are YouTube channels, there are workbooks at bookstores, and websites dedicated to this. If you have trouble using Windows or computers, spend the time to learn because that's going to make you a more successful GIS analyst. Additionally, for those of you on the other end of the spectrum who've been doing computer programming, who are really comfortable with computers, that algorithmic thinking translates really well into GIS workflows. If you're somebody who's interested in learning programming as a side track to learning GIS, that'll serve you well too, because that thinking will come in handy once we get to geoprocessing. So you can check out codeacademy.com to get started, or another of the Coursera programming courses. There are a number of them. There's one on Python, there's a whole specialization on R programming. They're both great. And then the other thing to learn is sometimes we're afraid to mess around with our computers and try things that we don't really know. Do a Google search, see what'll happen, and then don't be afraid to explore and try things out. It's really okay to break things. Sometimes your computer's your livelihood and you really don't want to break it, but otherwise, things don't get too bad when you mess things up. But in order to do that, you're going to want to have a good backup. So I'll get to that in a moment. Some software you're going to want to have too. There's a lot of software that you need on your computer that's not explicitly GIS software, but that you really need to have to be a good GIS analyst. To start with, Microsoft Office. You're going to want Microsoft Word, Excel, and Microsoft Access, which doesn't come with all editions of Microsoft Office. It's not required, but there are certain types of geographic data that are openable in Microsoft Access and that allow you to tinker around and play with it outside of ArcGIS. So it's really handy to have. If you can't afford that Microsoft Office license or don't want to, you can get LibreOffice or OpenOffice for free. You'll have some limited functionality with those Access databases, but you'll be able to get around. The most critical one is Excel or spreadsheet software in one of these other packages. Another item, Google Earth. Lots of us have it by default, but it's really handy. It allows you to look up information by name around the world, and it'll enable you to supplement your ArcGIS skills in a handy, informative fashion. The ArcGIS Pro is adding some of that capability, but Google Earth is still really useful. Notepad++ is another one. For those of you coming from other systems that have deep, rich text editors, that's basically what Notepad++ is. It allows you to edit code. It allows you to edit any file as if it's text. You can really quickly open up things that you don't think are text and see if they're text and start editing them. And so it can be really useful when you're editing, especially shape files and things like that, to have a generic text editor like that. 7-zip is an archive extractor, and you'll find a lot of uses for that with GIS when you're sending and receiving files from people. And then any PDF reader, it doesn't matter, but a lot of times geographic data will come with PDFs that describe what it is. You need to read that metadata in order to be able to use your data. So next up we have GreenShot, which is a free utility online. It's great for taking screenshots of regions of your screen. When you get to doing those bug reports to people of the trouble you're having, GreenShot lets you hit a button, select a part of your screen that shows what's going on, and paste that into your bug report. It copies it straight to your clipboard for you, save it out to a file, or share it to an online service directly. It's super lightweight, runs in the background. I highly recommend it. And then in terms of preventing catastrophe from happening, I recommend Dropbox and CrashPlan. or another backup service. So Dropbox is great because if you work out of it, it's automatically synchronizing your data and versioning it for you. Sometimes it can create a few issues, but mostly I haven't had any problems with it. The other thing is you can right-click on any file in Dropbox and get a link to share it to people. So if you're having trouble with some data or you want to just send it to somebody, you can really quickly do that because it's already stored in the cloud in addition to your computer. Further, I highly, highly recommend getting a good backup. CrashPlan is my favorite. I've tried a number of the other ones. I've used Carbonite and Mozy in the past, and I really love CrashPlan because it versions your data. It's always monitoring what's going on, and not just in the case of a deletion, but also in the case of a corrupted file, my backup doesn't get overwritten. I can go back in time, just like Apple's Time Machine with CrashPlan, and I can retrieve any version of this file forever potentially, but you can configure it to less if you're concerned about that. And then I can just go back to when I had a good copy of it. I consistently see geographic data getting corrupted. I get a question about once a month by people who have a whole geodatabase. That's not just one data layer. That's all of their data for a project that they can't open anymore. A good backup prevents catastrophe. It's been well worth the money I've spent on it, and I recommend it. So finally, spend the time to feel comfortable on a Windows computer if you're not already. That time invested up front is going to make it faster to learn GIS, and you'll have a lot more fun doing it. Also, know that making mistakes is okay. It's how we all learn. I've made so many mistakes as a GIS analyst, as a programmer, as a computer specialist, and most of them were completely inconsequential, and it was okay, and I learned a lot from them. And then make sure to go back and install some of those free utilities or equivalents on your computer so that you have them. Those are generic to all GIS workflows. There are tons of others you can install based upon your needs, but those are going to be useful in almost all situations. And then make sure you have a good backup because by the time you need it, it's too late to get one. So it'll help you out. So that's it for week 1. Make sure to get the book or a GIS license so that when you come back next week, you'll be ready to open our GIS and start learning with it. Okay, thanks, and I'll see you next week.